Hey, and welcome everybody to our first class. How exciting! And it is on the conceptual framework. Okay, now, the conceptual framework isn't an accounting standard, okay? That's the first thing to understand. It's just something that sits outside the accounting standards and it's there to help the users of the accounts. It's there to help people who read accounts, people who create accounts, auditors, that sort of thing. So what does it actually do? Well, it kind of does three things firstly. First of all, it's a framework for setting new IFRSs. So for setting new accounting standards. So what it does, it gives us a load of principles, and those principles can then be followed when we set a new standards. And that's really important, as we'll see later. So it helps us set new standards. What it also does, it helps us sort out any accounting issues with current standards. Okay, so we've got easy to remember then. It does something here, look, with new standards, helps us set up new standards by, excuse me, giving us some principles, and we're going to use those principles for the new standards. And if we've got any loopholes or any problems with current standards that maybe the standard doesn't cover properly, well, that's okay. We'll just go and have a look at what the conceptual framework says, because the conceptual framework is a bunch of principles and we can maybe apply the issue that we've got and have a look at these principles and see what it is we should do. And then finally, because it is a bunch of fundamental principles, then as they're all in there, that's great news for us, because no need to be repeated. In all the standards. No need to be repeated in all standards. It's already there. So if we have an issue with anything, with a new standard, with a current standard, we don't need to go back and re-look and revisit the whole thing, because it's kind of already there for us. All right, so it's not an accounting standard. What it is something that sits outside. It's a bunch of principles that help us basically do those two things, help us set new standards and resolve issues with old standards. And it gives us a bunch of principles that we don't need to repeat. We don't need to go back and look. So get the principles right, and the standards should be right. And I just wanted to mention here, what this should happen is, it should mean we get consistent standards, and it should be consistent because they both use the same principles. Now at the moment, all standards don't. You'll see as we go on through the course that some standards don't agree with the conceptual framework, and that's what's happening now. We're trying to sort out those that don't and make sure that they do, and so that we get this really important consistency. And what it means is that standards can be proactive and not reactive. And what that means is that if there is an issue that comes about, we don't have to create a new standard. We don't have to be reactive all the time to it, because we will have seen it coming, or we will be able to deal with it because we follow principles rather than rules. And therefore we're always thinking, right, are our principles right? So let's make sure our principles are right. Let's be proactive, and then any situations that come up should be covered by these principles, so we don't have to be reactive to them all the time. Okay, that's about it for this basic session. So hope you enjoyed it, and see you on the other side.